Tavares with StopTheCrime.net. If you haven't been to our website, I suggest that you do. Public comment is an illusion. This is actually a predetermined workshop with policies from the United Nations. Now, I won't hold against the folks that have the Green New Deal. It's not green, it's not new, and it's not a deal. It is a psyops through the international bankers, absolutely documented on the World Bank website. Sadly, no one here has been taught in school about the report from Iron Mountain that was released only a couple of months after John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Because of the ignorance and lack of knowledge, we're absolutely destroying all of our communities across this nation and actually worldwide. When you look at the Supervisor Hopkins, when you look at your district and you sit on board meetings saying it's illegal to live in the WUI, meaning Wildlands Urban Interface, on the Sonoma Clean Power Board that you sit on, and that it's only going to be allowed to sit in. Of course, all of our time is up. Thank you.
Have a big smile. Come on.
First Family Partnership Program in Sonoma County. Which partners?
So did Thomas.
We are now going to move into the retreat part of the meeting. Our community members are welcome to stay and listen, but you will not have an opportunity to comment further. This is an opportunity for the board and the Drake County staff to work together.
This is Deborah Tavares with StopTheCrime.net. I'm attending a Sonoma County Board of Supervisors meeting today. It's held at an unusual location, not at the normal county offices where they hold these meetings, but I've made a very interesting observation because this is a strategic plan retreat, and you're watching a Delphi in process right now, headed by and facilitated by facilitators. You'll see the woman in the back in the black facilitating the responses on these boards. What I noticed is that man that you see in the white shirt near the woman in the black that's talking is rushing the board members through the months and telling them, can we move this faster? We've only got a minute or so and we've got to keep this moving. So within the Delphi, there's a Delphi. It's a double Delphi. And that's something most important that I'm observing right now. Those people that are sitting up at the board that don't make any decisions and have no jurisdiction are being Delphied as well. Everyone sitting in here is under the Tavistock Institute of Advisory and Delphi meetings of mind control. And this is absolutely a diabolical presentation. I hope that all of you that are listening to this right now are paying close attention. These meetings are the standardized type of meeting in every city, in every state, in every country, worldwide. You'll see the tables, you'll see the people gathered around them, you'll see these controlled meetings to move the agenda of the international bankers, the IMF, the World Bank, and the United Nations through all of our cities. This is how it's done. I know I've reported on this many times in the past, but I will tell you, this is the first time I've actually noticed a Delphi within a Delphi. Very, very interesting to note. Again, this is Deborah Tavares reporting live on the scene of a Delphi crime against all peoples everywhere, worldwide. This is how it's done. You're watching it in process right now.
I'm gonna film Deborah filming you.
Cool, I like it.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, James Gore.
Got you too.
Howdy. Say hi to all our subscribers. Hi. All right, he's one of the county board of supervisors.
I need you to back up a little bit.
They have negated their godly origin, which is why Unum Sanctum says there is only one beginning of heaven and earth. And what we've done is we have completely negated reality and our direct link to God. That's what's horrible about this, is we're doing it to ourselves based upon, I got it. We're being misled. I know that.
I'm with you part of the way, but I'm not with. There's a damn bear trap in the woods that people put there, and they did everything in the world to convince people they could walk safely in those woods, and every one of us got stuck in a trap. So the truth is, at the beginning of those woods, there should be this massive sign that says, if you're a human being and you walk in these woods, you will be caught in a bear trap. What it actually says is nothing about bear traps. As a matter of fact, we've gone through a whole education system that makes us think bear traps don't even exist. So I want to be perfectly clear. I know you and I see eye to eye of it, but the perverse nature of what we're talking about is beyond, because nobody had a chance. Nobody. And yeah, it got lost in time. And yeah, there's still cultures that do what they do with the placenta and other things because they still understand. There's that godly connection, for lack of better terms. But there is not one card in this foul deck that was not stacked against us, to be clear.
There's no doubt.
There is no doubt.
There's no doubt. And again, I'm smiling as you speak, because the horror for me is that even if we show this scientifically, Crow, if I prove it scientifically, the scary part is that people will still deny the biological origin. And again, the neat thing about the biological origin, or small g Genesis, is it leads you back to fertilization, which is the actual act of creation. So when you understand the science, I'll call it reason, it takes you back to the faith, where science doesn't go any further. Faith is the godly origin, and then from there, science picks up and gives us a biological, substantial existence until our last breath, and that spirit leaves our body again. So it's faith and reason, but right now what we're lacking is reason.
But you're leaving one part of this out, and that's the enforcement. It's called law. And here's the plausible deniability and everything you're pointing out. From my point of view, you could get 100 lawyers in a room and ask them if everything in Black's law isn't nautically based. And I imagine most of them will say, what are you talking about? These are just the laws that put together society in a way that allows it to function. When in fact, we understand, and even from the description you just gave, it is all nautically based. There is no portion of the existence of a human being in the modern world that is not relatable one-to-one with seafaring, is there?
No, because we came from the sea.
That's right.
I mean, that all the time in the womb is the sea.
So how is it that we have all these lawyers in the world that are one step below a knight? That's what Esquire means. They're not a knight. They're one step below a knight. Hint, hint, hint. But the point is if you talk to any number of them making their living in law, and you tried to make the argument, this is all based in what we'll call admiralty law, for lack of better terms, or nautically based. This is the plausible deniability in all of it. Who's ever going to, common sense almost dictates that that's not true. But in fact, we're showing that it is true.
The bottom line is that the president is on a very short leash, and the White House is the most monitored prison in the world. The president's options moving forward have been severely limited. That's also because there is a slow-motion, soft coup in progress. The president has performed his primary function within the context of the Second American Revolution. President Trump exposed the New World Order globalist cabal that insidiously stole our nation over decades of subversion, sabotage, and sedition. For example, because of Trump's Twitter content, we now know that the media is the enemy of the people. But now, we need to take some responsibility. We need to take responsibility and get rid of the traitors to the Republic, wherever they infest the United States government, the mainstream media, and other powerful institutions in our society. The president can't do this alone. He never could, because this is our responsibility. This is the responsibility of every U.S. citizen. We let the globalist perpetrators steal our country, and only we can take it back from them. This grave responsibility now falls squarely on the shoulders of every living United States citizen. We are currently at the point where it's either us or the globalists. And if the Democrats win in 2020, it's over. I've been saying that for a while. Truly, it'll be over for the United States of America that was conceived by our great founding fathers. Should the listener fail to apprehend this stark reality, take a look at what's going on in California. So let's get busy. Let's take back our country before the Bolsheviks take what little freedoms and few rights are left for us to defend ourselves. They must be removed from their positions of power and influence. They must be removed. For Headlines with a Voice, this is Nancy Morgan Hart.
Hey, Manifash. It is the 13th of June, 2019. And yet another article here. We need to do a little talking about climate change and how our lawmakers are changing their minds. Their picture here they use from Mexico Beach in Florida, where Hurricane Michael literally devastated the place, okay? That's a whole nother story. But this article really resonated with me to put out a message that just came upon me as to what we're really seeing here. And it gives you a very good perception of the depths of evil that you're dealing with. And that it is, in fact, a spiritual war. And this is a war for your soul. It's for your mind and your soul. They want you to simply give over to it so that you die in your sin. That's all they care about, is to keep you from the saving grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ. That's the number one plan. And climate change is, in fact, probably one of, if not the main linchpin, if you will, in their new world control system, their new beast system. Okay? This is Agenda 21, 2030. And I know I'm talking to a lot of people who know this stuff already, but some people just seemingly don't have a clue. Okay, the people who are running these programs, you need to understand, they are Satan worshipers. They worship the God of this world. They believe that their accomplishments and they believe this, that they are going to ascend and become the gods of this world. That's just the way they are deceived. If you're not in Christ, if you don't have a sincere love for the truth, then you cannot know the truth unless you indwell His Spirit. Okay? This is their plan, to bring the entire world under control through weather modification and environmental disruption. If you control these elements right here, the essentials, people are going to follow the rules. If they don't, prison and death. Simple. That's their sustainable development. That's what that means. Complete control of your life and your death. Okay? The information for all this stuff, for weather modification, the aerosol spraying, all this stuff is still available, although they are trying to wipe it out. It's still there. Public information for those who want the truth. You need to understand this stuff. I'll link this here, this lecture of Bernard Eastland. He's like the father of HARP. And that system has evolved into such a worldwide, precise, and powerful system. It's no longer HARP. They just laugh when you say that now. It is now Skynet, if you will, and they use these particulates as a receiver, as a mechanism to move weather patterns, to move airflows. This is what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long, long time, and it's destroying the ecosystems of the world. But they call it climate change and blame it on you. You understand? They create the problem. They garner the reaction from you because you're demanding a solution, and they come in with their preset solution, which is complete and utter control of your life. And it just saddens me there's so much discussion on climate change, and no one even seems to want to look up in the sky on any given day and witness with their own eyes what they've been doing. And it just blows your mind to think that they refuse to see this, and they refuse to see it for what it is, and they believe the lie because it's more comfortable to them, because they don't love the truth. It really is that simple. Spiritual war, people, it's a lot more than you think. You need to understand it. You need the Spirit of Christ in order to navigate it. All right? So they're not all ignorant of this stuff, these Congress people that they're talking about here. Not at all. They know exactly what's going on. And it's very sad, but it's very true. Okay? They are just either doing it out of fear, greed, pride of life, all the fleshly things. It's pathetic. It really is. Because this chemtrailing, these geoengineering programs are literally the number one reason. Now, there are many factors, but this is the number one reason. You need to understand this. You just do. What do you think is going to happen when this is being done every single solitary day worldwide? What do you think is going to happen? What kind of an effect do you think it's going to have on ecosystems and weather systems? Exactly. It's the exact result that they were looking for, because they're insane. They will do anything to ascend above the clouds. Do you understand? And the people who believe it, even though it's thoroughly documented, are nothing less than the blind being led by the blind. It's just that simple. Millions of tons of nanoparticles sprayed into the atmosphere. Again, what did you think this would result in? It's pure evil. It's insanity. It's the agenda. While I was researching this, you need to see this. While I was researching this, they show Hurricane Michael here. So I was looking into Hurricane Michael, and I came upon this from the Weather Channel, okay? Now, get a load of this and wrap your mind around this. The Weather Channel, there's their little bitty logo there, is really known as the Weather Company. Now, just let that roll around in your mind. The Weather Company. And it is a IBM business powered by the cloud, if you know what I mean. This is all right in front of us. The Weather Company by IBM. Seriously. Think about this. They believe that they are the gods. We're talking about Babylon here, people. IBM, they're the company that created and developed the computer systems for the Third Reich to logistically, develop methods to where they could eliminate millions of humans quickly and efficiently. And they did it. And their number tattoo system, all IBM, precursor to the 666, but through the weather modification, primarily the spraying the particulates, weather patterns have been disrupted. So much, for so long now, we have a radical, unpredictable weather pattern destroying ecosystems. And there's your problem. Displacing people, it's a problem. It's a big problem. So critically damaged, homes and lives are destroyed due to weather modification programs, which are done through covert operations and heavy-duty cover-up and propaganda. So, what do you think's going to happen? The public demands action. A reaction is achieved. So highly publicized, so-called activists and scientists and politicians corporate and business leaders appear to pressure lawmakers to take action. They, therefore, force the public into a level of serfdom through laws designed to save the world. Complete control. There's the solution. Your new world order. And again, this is just part of it, but it's a huge part. And these lawmakers, okay, these lawyers, they're hiding from the truth, or they're flat out lying by omission. And I made this little note here. People keep sending me links to this Mr. BB channel, and every time I look at one, all I see is chemtrails all over his videos, and he skates around them and avoids them and calls them other silly things. He is omitting what he's seeing. Do you understand? And he's making probably a good living doing it. I love these people. I want them to turn to Christ. But this man is a gatekeeper. I pray for him. Congress and the lawmakers, they are the lawyers. Check this out. This is who they are, okay? Let's start Luke 11:46. Woe unto you, lawyers. You made laws, okay? You laid men with burdens, grievous to be borne, and you yourselves touch not the burdens with one of your fingers. And that's just a fact. You see what I'm saying? They hinder those who would enter into the knowledge of Christ. This is a very serious offense. What are they doing right now? They're just laying in wait for us to speak truth so that they can find something that they can falsely accuse us of and shut us up. That's what's going on. Okay? They got to eradicate the truth. It damages their agenda. They got to get rid of it. This is a spiritual war, people, and this propaganda and mind control of theirs is a key component. They are right now carrying out an information holocaust, making good evil, making up down. It's just the way it is. We are in the end times. Only God through Jesus Christ, the Savior, can pull you and save you from this certain destination of hell. So I pray you know him. If you don't, you need to seek him humbly, sincerely, with a love of the truth, and he'll reveal himself to you. Open the Bible and ask for understanding. The weather company, the IBM cloud. Get a load of this stuff. Time is short, folks. Seek Jesus. Peace and grace to you. Many fish.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God,
One of the things that they have to do, and I'm going to make some sweeping statements and I'll qualify it as I go along. One of the things that they have to do is that they always tell you the truth. And I say the word always. Whenever they don't, they get caught out. There's a reason why that is. Your subconscious mind works at 120 times faster than your conscious mind does. 120 times faster. I am unable to go into the world of the unconscious because it is unconscious. So I will stick with the subconscious. Since it works 120 times faster than your conscious mind, it knows when you're lying, it knows when you're telling the truth, and it knows what the facts are, and it's already performed those calculations 120 times way before the conscious mind gets to it. And you might feel it as a sense of intuition or a dream. and then you act on it, or your conscious mind acts on it 120 years later when it's all over. And that's known as a migration period. That's how long sometimes it can take if one does not listen to their instincts for that information that the subconscious mind gave you, either in the solar plexus or any other part of the world, to alert you to that something is not quite right. That's how long it might take to migrate to the conscious mind.
All right, so let's read the Father's Prayer. We started this a little bit last week. All right? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed, set apart, granter. Thy kingdom come. This is the stipulations. Thy kingdom. Whose kingdom? Are we talking about the beast that came from the sea onto the land? Let me ask you this. Are we talking about the republic of the United States of America or the democracy? No. We hold all these truths self-evident that all men have been created equal with unalienable rights, except for those who what? Consent to be governed. What is consent? Okay. It's agreement. That's right, Mama. Very good. Very good. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. That's his will. Give us this day our daily bread. We're going to discuss this a little bit more. Property. The property is the land in which your spirit occupies and possesses. You were not here and now you are. That is a gift from the Most High. That is your daily bread. It's not a piece of bread, folks. You weren't here and now you are. Where'd that spirit come from? What is the ghost inside the machine? And of course, we go into this, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, right? This is forgiveness of everything, right? Of course, I've shown y'all time and time again, debt is considered what? Slavery. And we'll talk about this later. That's why during this big show on stage for the last week and a half or 2 weeks, 3 weeks with the impeachment stuff, which can't even come from the House. And of course, most men and women don't know that truth. It has to come from the Senate, and people running around going crazy. Oh, they're going to impeach my president. And they go losing their mind, and they don't even know what's going on. In the back alley, both bipartisan bills, they spent more money. They extended the Patriot Act. Now they've got... they've just proved to America that America's religion is Judaism by signifying anti-Semitism bills that makes it hate speech to speak out against an ethnicity and a religion. All happened while everybody was running around wondering what's going on with the impeachment process. And most Americans have no clue just what they did. They just told you the religion of America is Judaism. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one.
Got the C capitalized, S capitalized. I say, well, they're talking about two different constitutions now, this way. Where when this C isn't capitalized and this S isn't capitalized, they're talking about the same constitution, just being used in two different places. Okay, to the best of my ability. Now, hers doesn't have "So Help Me God" on it, but I've seen on other styles like this, because this is used by many officers in Michigan, where they will have "So Help Me God" added or some other religious test, which makes it, a violation of the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States. No religious test. But it does support. So, okay. Now, Gretchen Whitmer, that really isn't her full legal name. Right? She has another name. It's Gretchen Esther Whitmer. So I say she didn't properly identify herself because according to the Real ID Act that went into effect for 2020, right? And this is the one that says if your ID doesn't have this information on it, you can't get on an airplane. That act. Well, that ID has your full legal name. Mine's Robert Allen Ritlewski. Hers is Gretchen Esther Whitmer. And that's the name that you have to use for all official purposes with federal agencies. Well, if you're going to be swearing to the Constitution of the United States, and you're swearing to a federal agency, so you got to use your full legal name. And she didn't. Another error. And then finally, the governor cannot swear an oath of office before a notary public. At least not in Michigan. And so, right, oaths of office. This is from the Secretary of State's website. Authorized individuals who may administer oaths. So let's go see what we have for a notary, right? All offices with the one. One says excluding governor, attorney general, secretary of state. We don't need to go any further, right? This woman here, right here, is claiming to be the governor of the state of Michigan. And her, right? And she's filed a fucking counterfeit oath of office. I want her arrested. I want the military to arrest her ass and put her in a FEMA camp. Right? Because one of her jobs in the past, she had been an Ingham County prosecutor, which means she was putting people in jail for marijuana, which is a herb given by every man, or by God to every man. And they can call it whatever they want. It's still an herb, and just because you don't know it doesn't change the fact. Right? If they're going to arrest you for it, they got to arrest a squirrel or a bird. Everybody. Right? It's discrimination. So this is the fallacy of the system we live in that everybody, not everybody, people who listen to my videos or things like this, I mean, we know there's shit's going on. But by and large, most people think the world's just fine. Well, it isn't. And Gretchen Esther Whitmer is a child of the devil because she lies, cheats, and steals. And she needs an exorcism. And if that doesn't work, well, then throw her ass in a FEMA camp and just keep her there until she naturally dies. Give her everything she wants, just don't let her leave. And not just her, all these devil-worshiping pagans. Which is really what we're dealing with. People that are using the Word of God against the children of God.
Hey everybody, I wanted to do a really quick video. I'm in a different location in my house because I needed a table. I'm going to be using a book that's very important to the common law of the Fourth Crown of American Common Law, because it's a commentary on the common law of England, which is under Chancery and the monarchical system, and the morphing into American common law, the Fourth Crown of Common Law. And this book is the commentaries on the laws of England in 4 books by Sir William Blackstone, Esquire. This is him, Sir William Blackstone, right there. And this is, this aside, this is the cover page, I think. You can see that. I believe that this was entered according to the Acts of Congress in the year of 1859 by Childs and Peterson in the clerk's office of the District Court of the United States for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. So the original Supreme Court location, the original body, the state or the territory now, but the Republic state where all things were originated. So I wanted to bring that up because it's a real quick little ditty on how they think that they have interfered with our inheritance, our titles. And in this particular book, again, this book is really important because he goes over the American Constitution, the United States of America Constitution, the Republic Constitution, the original one, and what each kind of phrase and wording and particularities kind of are morphed from the laws of England and what they imply in our current crown of common law, the Fourth Crown. And in this particular case, this is on page 548, 549. I have the whole book scanned. A friend of mine owned it and was very kind to let me scan it in color. So if I had the time, I'd scan it, put it online if it isn't online. But it's definitely something that people should try to read. It's very specific about the rights of things and the rights of persons, which is a different thing. And then it talks about descendancy, the inheritance of estates, and all these things pertaining to the descendants of titles and the corporeal and incorporeal herediments that people are born with. This, what I'm going to speak to, is chapter 14 of title by descent, meaning the inheritance or the conveyance of land and herediments and tenements by descendancy. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is there's a little note at the bottom of the beginning of the chapter. It's the very beginning of the chapter. It says chapter 14 of title by descendant. And it says that sorry. It says, it's the next page. It says, which is on page 550, when it's talking about consanguinity, which is the kindred. Like there's a whole table. See, can you see that? There's a whole table on who can inherit lands and who is the next in line for inheritance based on your kin, the lineage of your kin. So it's talking about the rights of the descendants by rights. I mean, the right to inherit land and everything based on your descendancy and where you are in the line of the kin. But there's a little annotation at the bottom where it talks, and it says that, yet though the lands are cast on the heir by the law itself, the heir has not plenum dominium, or full and complete ownership, till he has made an actual corporeal entry into the lands. For if he dies before entry made, his heir shall not be entitled to take the possession, but the heir of the person who has last actually seized, S-E-I-S-E-D. It is not, therefore, only a mere right to enter, but the actual entry that makes a man complete owner, so as to transmit the inheritance to his own heirs, not just non jus sed cessina factus stepitum. I'm going to spell that for you guys. N-O-N, another word, J-U-S, another word, S-E-D, another word, S-E-I-S-I-N-A, another word, F-A-C-I-T, another word, S-T-I-P-E-T-M. What is sufficient entry and cession and what not. And there's an annotation on here, Common Digest, Descent, C, 8, 9, 10, and C post P 312, 209, 227, 228, and Chitty. Chitty is a good thing to read. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because of these. This is called a soul plate. You notice footprints on it? Your children are being prevented from actually putting their physical corporeal bodies on the inherited land by having their footprints first put on a document that becomes a negotiable instrument in the fraud. So what they're doing by putting your child's footprint on this is preventing them from putting their corporeal foot upon the land and getting their inheritance before they're contracted by the Pope. Now, this is called a soul plate. Okay, this is an original one. This is a real one. This is called a soul plate. Now, you can torn the word all you want, but to me it means they think that they have contracted your soul. Okay, so there are all these little things that they do that people don't understand their origins in law. So the purpose of putting your child's footprint on a negotiable instrument and creating a soul plate is to contract the child by putting his actual corporeal foot on a negotiable instrument before he puts his foot on the land and gets his inheritance. So that is the origin of this act that the doctors, titles of nobility, are doing for the king and the queen and the pope. So it's a simple act, and now you know the origins of it, and now you know the law behind it. So these people are so insane that they think that because they have put your child's corporeal footprint on a piece of paper before they put it on the land, that the child is being denied its inheritance. And they are claiming, that's how they're claiming the descendants of the land before your children and before us. So that's just a little tidbit of law that you have to read a book that is 800 pages with a lot of annotations to find. Again, just a simple fact. I know I haven't posted in a while, but it's something that I found, and I wanted to share just this crazy little tidbit of law that are being used against us. So, if you all want to stop your children from being having their inheritance denied, stop letting doctors put their feet prints on contracts before they put their foot on the land and claim their descendant inheritance. So that's what I have to tell you. I love you all. Namaste. Have a good day. It's Wednesday in the first week of December. Busy writing briefs for cases we have. Please pray for us and our son Clay and all the children that we're fighting for. So there you have it. Your children are made slaves by soul plates that doctors help create.
This is Gene Steinecker and I'm Phil Hudak. We're in Charleston. It's February 24th and we are going to serve some legislators with a petition of redress of grievances. I'm going to ask the Lord to bless us, to use us for His glory, to open hearts and minds, and may we be a testimony to Jesus, our Creator, and bring this world, bring this country at least, back to the Christian constitutional republic that formed it and made it great. And we thank you, Lord, and we give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, in 33, they actually said in writing, in congressional testimony, that we are the enemy.
There was a Treating with the Enemy Act in 1917, okay? And then in 1933, remember when they confiscated the gold? Roosevelt actually had Congress pass an act giving him dictatorial powers as long as we were in a state of emergency, and suspended the Constitution.
War Powers Act, and Roosevelt got permission from Congress to suspend the Constitution, to have everyone turn in their gold, which, you know, something had to happen in order for the government just to say, you got something, give it to me. You know.
And it's actually suspended to this day because the president has never rescinded the declaration of emergency.
Well, the federal government says they aren't in effect. You only have privileges now. You don't have the right to travel.
So that's when licenses started, because now they made things privileges, because you didn't have these common law rights, you see?
So we got war on drugs, war on poverty. So they're not lying when they say we have all these wars. What they don't tell you is that we are considered enemies.
Well, West Virginia's rights of its citizens are being violated.
And Congress doesn't seem to really be stopping him, you know, impeaching him maybe for violating the Constitution.
We see the president doing things that he shouldn't be able to do, and why isn't Congress stopping him? Because they actually know that he is above the law. He can't legally do it.
Really?
He can legally do it. See, here's where West Virginia comes in. Our Constitution states that it is valid during wartime and peace.
In wartime and in peace.
Well, the federal government said, no, you've lost your rights because we're in a period of war.
But we will grant you rights by a license, which is permission to do that, which is otherwise illegal, according to Black's Law Dictionary. So this document will just blow your mind.
This is by Melvin Stanford. He's a college professor of law. I mean, this document is by a law professor, and it's absolutely just phenomenal. Well, when you read it there, you're going to get mad.
And we have created a First Amendment petition for redress of grievances.
And these are acceptances of oath of office.
When you take an oath, it's like a contract. And so that,
in other words, you know, you took an oath of office.
That's an affirmation that we accept your contract.
And that's a contract. And basically we want to just bring this to the public that, you know, something's wrong with this picture.
Something has to be done, because my children, my grandchildren, I don't know if you have children?
Yeah, I don't have any children, but I have relatives, young relatives.
Yes. Well, you know, they really don't have a future if we don't have the rule of law.
Come back.
Thank you, please?
Yes, that's for you.
Okay, well, thank you.
I know it's bizarre, and like I say, you know, you're our representative. We come to you and we say, here's the situation. Don't take my word for it. It's in writing.
I'll be glad to look at this.
Yeah, well, I really do appreciate that, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you giving this to me, or is it me just?
That's for you, and it's highlighted what we think is important.
So I will read this.
I wasn't aware of it.
And most people aren't. They're shocked. Very few people know. You know, check it out. Don't take my word for it. Check it out.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Roosevelt did this. Roosevelt did this.
Roosevelt did it. Yeah.
West Virginia Constitution, Article 1, Section 3, Continuity of Constitutional Operation. The provisions of the Constitution of the United States and of this state are operative alike in a period of war as in time of peace.
How's it going today? I'm going to talk about a couple success stories on offer and acceptance. And you're going to love this. I had a friend, went to his house, he's my mechanic, and we just hung out together for a while. And I go to his house one morning, and he says, "Oh, guess who showed up today?" I was like, "No idea." He's like, "The sheriff." I was like, "The sheriff?" And I was like, what they want? He said, "Well, they served me a subpoena to go to court. And I said, you know, he told me what it was for and all that. And I said, well, I kind of was joking, and I was like, so you're going to like take this back and cancel this? Or are you going to just keep it and lay it on the table there and accept it? He had no idea really about offer and acceptance until I explained this. Well, he's in the bathroom, which is like right there, and he can look out the door, you know, as he's brushing his teeth and all that type of stuff as he's talking to me. And he pokes his head out, and he's kind of smiling, and he's like, so what do I do? And I said, you ready to go right now? I got the gas. I'll take you over there, and you could take this back and give this back to him. He's like, I don't want to go mess with him. I'm like, well, you're not messing with him. In offer and acceptance, if you keep this, then you accept it. So then he says, so you're saying if I take this back, this is over, I don't have to go to court, you know, nothing's going to happen because I refuse this. I said, that's exactly what I'm saying. So he brushes his teeth, he gets his, you know, he gets his shirt on, and we get out in the car, and he's just shaking his head at me laughing. So as on the way we're going there back to the clerk's office to drop this off, this presentment, I'm telling him the whole way, when you take this in there, no matter what they do, it has to stay in that building. You have to leave it there because you have to show that you refused it. And if they can trick you or threaten you or coerce you or anything like that, then you've accepted it. I mean, they didn't twist your arm or break your arm. They just tricked you and kind of coerced you. You know, big deal. And I explained to him, no matter what happens, you give that back to them. You walk in there, you say, I have a question, you spin it around on the table, and you just dip. And he's laughing because he's like, you're going to get me in trouble. I'm like, no, you know, I'm not going to get you in trouble. So he goes in, he walks down the hallway, through the metal detector, down the hallway, walks in this office, and he says, I got a question. And the clerk stands up. She's really nice and chipper that day. And they're basically nice and decent people. And he spins the paper around. He said, right there. And she's like, where? And he runs to the door. He's like, I don't accept this. He's like, and I'm returning this to you. She said, wait. She said, this is yours. You're supposed to show up to court. Well, he dips out the door. And he goes down the hallway. And she went through the back offices, and I'm sure papers were flying, and she was knocking stuff over. She went all the way through the back hallway and out to the metal detector. My friend gets to the metal detector, and she's there panicking. She's panicking like beyond belief. And she just ran the 50-yard dash in like 5 seconds. And the officer takes it out of her hand, puts it in his chest, and says, this is for you. You got to show up to court, and this is the subpoena for you to be there. And he said, and you've been served. As soon as he moved his hand, the paper went, shoo. And he said, no, it looks like you've been served, because he listened to what I said. He comes out to the car. He's running. He gets in the car. He's panicking. He's breathing so hard. I'm like, where are they coming? They chasing us? And he said, old man, stop it. Well, we had a laugh. But the case was over. They never bothered him again. And that's a success story for the offer and acceptance, and that's a true story. Now, another lady, a friend of mine, unfortunately, had a son pass away in a fire. And they weren't real liked on that street. And to make a long story short, you know, the son died of smoke inhalation in the garage, and she tried her best to get this young man out of there. Great guy. And she just couldn't do it. She's 98 pounds and he's, 180. Just wasn't happening. Well, he passes away, and you're outside, and they're in the ambulance, and the police are there, and all the investigations going on. And however this smoke and fire started, there really wasn't a fire till later, but the smoke did him in. However this happens, a mystery. But the young lady didn't kill her own son. I mean, come on. There's just no way. He was in there smoking a cigarette because he didn't smoke in the house. Somehow he caught things on fire. And, the police decided they was going to try to get her to enter into a contract that she killed her own son. And it's ridiculous. Well, even at the hospital, they come and try to talk to her, and it's a horrible time for a family when something like that happens. But they actually tell them that they're not entering into a contract with them, and it's a bad time. And the boyfriend, yelled at them, and the police leave. Well, they come with a warrant to search the place. They kind of find a couple little pipes. They smoke tobacco out of. I mean, come on. And they, give her this paperwork, and all the things they go find has nothing to do with the death of her son. But, the rifle that they took, and they tried to say all these things, and, the lady asked me, because she heard the success story from my friend that I just told you. She asked me, what's the best thing to do so I don't have to go through all this, because I'm innocent, I didn't do anything wrong, I did everything I could. And I said, well, you have to give this back to them. And she did. She drove over there. She went in the clerk's office and said, I'd like to return this to you, and I reject this offer. And the clerk says, what are you talking about? And she said, I'm innocent, I don't accept this, and I'm rejecting this. And she says to the clerk, don't act stupid, this is serious. And the clerk says, well, I'm not acting stupid. She said, I've been a clerk for 31 years here at this office, and I have never seen this before. And she said, well, unfortunately, that's no good, I'm not accepting it, and have a nice day. And she never got charged with anything. The case went away. It was horrible enough that the son dies. So, it's just another success story where someone rejected things timely because they were innocent and they shouldn't have to go through this. But people accept things and keep them, and then it causes all these problems because inside that ship, the courthouse, the vessel, they're the boss, the judge is the captain, and the prosecutor's like the first mate, and whatever he says goes, and it's like all these magic things going on, and that's why you don't accept an offer. Because if you accept an offer, it brings out all this magic and demons inside these buildings. And you can't understand and you can't get away from it. You have to be responsible in a timely manner when you feel something's coming up against you or you've gotten an offer. So that's what I have for today. Review all my videos, please. Normally, as normal,
Civil rights under the 14th Amendment are for federal citizens and not state citizens. Federal citizens, as parents, have no right to the custody of their infant children except subject to the paramount right of the state. So federal citizens are U.S. citizens. They're slaves. It's all a Roman cult. You don't have any rights. You're a piece of property, slave. Capitis diminutio, meaning the diminishing of status through the use of capitalization. In Roman law, abridgment of personality or loss or curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications. Capitis diminutio maxima, meaning a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. The highest and most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave. Why do you think they're spelling your name in all block capital letters, idiot? That's Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Sestike trust equals Roman cult equals slave. This is Roman law. It's all coming from the Roman cult. To take an instant when a person has given himself an adoption or a woman has passed under manus, all their property and corporal and all that is due to them is acquired by the adopting father or the coiptionator, except those things which perish by capitis diminutio, of which kind are usufruct and obligation to services on part of a freeman contracted by oath, and matters enforceable by a statutable action. That's taken from the commentaries of Gaius and the Rules of Ulpian, translated with notes in 1874. Okay, that was originally written in like 350 AD in the Roman Empire. This is Roman law. Classification of persons. The Roman law distinguished three kinds of personal status or degree of legal capacity and classified human beings with respect thereto as follows. And we don't talk about that here, but I wanted to point out that this law of persons, written by Joseph R. Long, is talking about Roman law. Okay, the law of persons is Roman law. And then in section 3, it says capitis diminutio maxima. A Roman citizen cannot legally be sold in slavery, but he might become a slave by condemnation for crime or by being captured by an enemy, okay? These Satanist pigs are your enemy. They're making war on you. Capitis diminutio. This is Roman cult civil law. Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition, page 629. Capitis diminutio is the destruction of the caput or legal personality. Capitis diminutio, so to speak, wipes out the formal individual and puts a new one in his place, and between the old and new individual there is, legally speaking, nothing in common. A juristic personality may be thus destroyed in one of three ways: by loss of status libertatis. This is capitis diminutio maxima. Number 2, by loss of status civitatis, which is capitis diminutio media, and by loss of severance from the agnatic family. This entails capitis diminutio minima, and that's cited from Rudolf Sohm, The Institutes, a textbook of the history and system of Roman private law. And the point being is that status is everything, okay? Status is everything. Slavery is a status under Roman civil law. Capitis diminutio maxima, the diminution of a person's legal status as a result of being reduced to slavery. Okay? Status, standing, condition, situation, compare a state. A corporation has status as a citizen, let me say that again. A corporation has no status as a citizen outside the jurisdiction where it was created. And that's Anderson's Law Dictionary, 1889 edition. So, think about that. A corporation is a citizen, and therefore a citizen is a corporation. And if they're assaulting you as a Sesticate Trust, a U.S. citizen slave, then you're in the United States, okay? You're not in Texas, you're not in Arizona, you're not in New Mexico, you're not in New York, you're in the United States. You're in that 10 square miles District of Columbia.
All right, here we are looking at Australia. This is the total precipitable water. And you can see there's plenty of moisture that they could work with to douse the fires out. And this is the atmospheric river. We know they can steer the atmospheric river. They have an ionospheric heater right here at the point of this thing. There's an ionospheric heater there. We showed that the other night. But they're not going to. They're going to let this stuff burn. And we see them spraying the accelerants on it. So, yeah, man, here we go. Just looking at all Australia, and it's crazy when you line this up to the high-speed rail map, to the smart city map. That's where all the fires are. It's like exact. But they're just going to keep, pulling these weather issues and blame it on climate change and all that. I mean, we got a mass spraying operation that goes all the way from India. It goes up and around Iraq, over Iran, over Israel. Israel's even getting bombarded right now. So the first day of the new year in Israel is getting chemtrailed. The whole Red Sea is getting chemtrailed. The whole Middle East, all the way through the desert. Egypt's getting chemtrailed. Libya's getting chemtrailed. Chad's getting chemtrailed. And right where I showed you all the crazy spraying operations that's been over here off of Dakar, look, they pulled the moisture up, and they still have the dust storm going all at the same time. Everything is being sucked together. The dust storm is blowing the opposite way as the rain is coming in. Now, we went over this aerosol campaign that's been over here for 3 days. And it was actually going all the way up into these storms up here. And then it started this dust storm. And now you have, complete aerosols, and it's pulling the moisture up into the desert. You have desert chemtrailing in a huge swath. I mean, this is, I don't even know how, see if we can measure this. Let's put this on miles. So we're looking at We're looking at 4,000 mile strip of chemtrailing. That's insane. And you got, another spraying operation here over the Red Sea, all over Saudi Arabia, and down here where the two weather programs are. Hey, thanks out there, James. Out here we're, in Dubai, where you got the weathergenerator.net, you got the global trading company. Look at this aerosol campaign. Remember yesterday you had fires out here in the water? You still got one fire or two. But you have aerosols, just mass aerosols being deployed. There's a weather war going on. And if you look at all the paperwork, they got this paperwork that says you can't cause other countries weather war, but it doesn't say anything about doing it to your own country.
You talked a lot about detoxing. I know your talk this morning, and it's something you're certainly an expert in. A lot of people would say, you know what, our bodies detox by themselves anyway, so why do we have to make an extra effort to do that at some sort of regular interval?
Well, the best way to look at what our bodies are not doing and to prove that this stuff is loading up were the two gigantic, phenomenal studies that were funded and done by the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. And they did two studies. One was called Body Burden, the Pollution in People, and the other was called Body Burden, the Pollution in Newborns. The first one was the one in people, I think that was 2003. And they looked around the world. They tried the US, it wasn't good enough. They looked around the world to find laboratories that were able to analyze for and identify as many different poisonous substances as possible. They want to see how much stuff was in our cells. Mm-hmm. And they had to end up with many, many different labs, because some could they could get these 5 or 6 pesticides and herbicides, but they couldn't get solvents. These could get, benzene, toluene, and they ended up with, I think, between 5 and 7 different labs, I think 3 countries, just to be able to get as many different poisons analyzed as they wanted to look for to see if they were there. And then they got people, I'm not sure if I would have agreed to this, they got people who agreed to fat biopsy, where they do a punch biopsy and they take some fat, probably from your butt, and divide it up into however many labs there were and send a sample into each of these different labs to analyze and see how many poisons there were in them. And they found, 60 to 95 poisons in every single person. And it's all still available. You can put in body burden, the pollution in people, and you can find the PDF either on the web or on their website, ewg.org. And obviously, if we have 100 different poisons in us, the body's not detoxifying at all, because some of the poisons they were finding in people, those people were exposed to 30 years ago. So they're sitting there. So we know the stuff is not coming out, and that's the best proof that ever has been done, the EWG study. And then, of course, EWG, their study, Body Burden, the Pollution in Newborns, they wanted to see, well, how much of this stuff gets from mom into the fetus when it's developing in the womb? Well, how about if we get an agreement from a number of people at hospitals, and I don't know if they had to get agreement from the people or whatever, in addition to the hospital, to get the umbilical cord, because that's disposed of. Sure. And now, of course, they use it for stem cells and all sorts of things, but back then it was just disposed of. And they got a bunch of them. I think it was something like 12. And they analyzed for these same poisons in the umbilicus. And they found, I think it was, I forget if it was 187 or 287. I mean, even 50 would be a lot. Yeah. But it was like, I think it was 187 different poisons. And that means these were all going into the child before the child's even born. So we are born with not a few, with not dozens, but with like 100+ poisons in our body. And what I like to say, which I didn't remember to say during the presentation downstairs a couple hours ago, what I like to say is, I don't care how we get here. How we got here. I don't get into those arguments. If you're religious, God made us and put us here. If you're an evolutionary person, we've evolved from the monkeys or something else. If you're some of the further out people, we've been implanted here by alien seeds that were. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The point is, from that point on, we have been evolving. And the second point is that at that time, no matter which of those three you choose, none of the poisons that are hurting us existed on the planet Earth. These are all things that we have invented, made in a laboratory, benzene, formaldehyde, chloramines, chloride, fluoride. Some poisons existed. I mean, lead and mercury are in our Earth's crust. But most of the things that we have in us now that are causing our immune system to be awful, that are causing autoimmune conditions, that are causing neurological conditions, because the poisons do, most of the neurological conditions are probably caused by buildup of poisons. All the different cancers are being caused by poisons that didn't exist when we were first put on this planet, however that was. And therefore, our detoxification system, primarily kidneys, liver, breath to some extent, sweat to some extent, skin to some extent, were never designed to be able to handle all those poisons, because they weren't here. So therefore, we're being overloaded, and anything we can do to make up my own word, underload, anything we can do to start pulling this stuff out, as long as we do it slowly enough that we don't further overload by doing it too fast, is going to reduce our risk for more different health conditions than we could even list.
Uh, 6.7 the USGS has it at now, but again, 6.9, let's just call it what it was. It was a near 7 over here in Turkey, followed by a bunch of activity. So that's 2 7s, really. I mean, one's a full magnitude larger than the other. This one's a 6.7, this one's a 7.7. The difference is huge. It's 10 times more powerful. So it's like 10 of these wrapped up into one of these. And then you can times one of these times 7, and then that's really what it is. So really you could say it was 70 of these to equal a 7.7. It's amazing, right, that it's that much bigger, but that's how big the earthquake was. So that explains why it was felt in South Florida. That explains why there's felt reports coming in Port-au-Prince, over in Haiti, Dominican Republic, that far over to the east. I mean, that's about 200 miles over to the east. If it's, actually more than that, if it's 80 miles to the coast of Cuba, that's like 400 miles over to the east. And that's like 400 miles up to the north that it was felt. Which makes sense. It was a very, very large earthquake. The only good news is that it didn't cause any Caribbean-wide tsunami. This is lateral movement, so that's going to be side by side. Here, let's get back over and look at the plate boundary map one more time. So this is really moving west to east or southwest to northeast laterally, horizontally as opposed to vertically, so it's not snapping up as much. And when there's a snap up, that's when you get a tsunami. If it moves side by side, it's just jostling back and forth, not creating that much wave activity. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an underwater landslide somewhere that does cause local high waves, but those high waves could be similar to something you might see in a large tropical storm or something. That it wouldn't be like one of these Japan tsunamis that comes rolling in. Okay, so that's the good news on this. The bad news is that it likely caused damage across a lot of Jamaica and Cuba. So we'll find out more on the damage reports as those come in. One thing I would like to say, now we have to add Twitter to check for our tsunami warnings, since the professionals didn't bother to update tsunami.gov or the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, and instead we had to go seek them out on some social media platform that you have to have an account to even get into, or know how to get in without an account. When only seconds count, it's going to take you minutes? Isn't that opposite of what it should be? I'm not trying to get preachy, but I do have to say it. They need to update their sites, the government sites, tsunami.gov, Pacific Tsunami Warning Center.gov, NOAA.Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. All those sites need to be updated before they take to social media to do social media tweeting. I cannot believe. Could you imagine if I did it? You know, I mean, if I was in charge of the tsunami distribution and I was like, well, we're just going to have to, we're just going to take to Twitter. That's a little bit more effective than using our website. I mean, it is ridiculous. So anyway, we're going to save this as a video. We're going to put this out again as a second video on YouTube. You can watch the first one and get that one out. That happened real time. They're staying at 7.7 right now for magnitude-wise, and it could go up or down. I would think that they probably would, over time as they review it, maybe take it down to 7.5. Regardless of whether it's a 7.5 or a 7.7, it's the largest earthquake to strike on the planet in a fair amount of time, at least several months, and we're not done yet for this week.